Okay, so first off, I'm going to get your first and last name and spell it for me, as
Yeah,
well as your title of how you want to see it on the air.
sure. My name is Ranjeev Puri, first name Ranjeev, last name Puri, Puri, and I'm a state representative in Michigan's 24th House District.
So obviously, the big news of the day, some very, very sad news over the past 24 hours or so at MSU. We've been covering it all day, and and just tell us a little bit more about your statement here and um, this really need for change, for this to happen because, like you said, things like this are all too common nowadays.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I share that sentiment, and I just want to start out by thank you for having me. And my heart is with the victims and families of yesterday's horrific events, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. I think we're all Spartans today, but just on that statement, that is kind of the question of the day for me. And I think unfortunately, it's the focus of many people. But look, I am a legislator, but I'm also a father. I'm someone who had loved ones on campus. I'm a Michigander, and so sadly, we've gotten to a point in America where elected officials who care about this issue have pre-penned statements ready to go that we update whenever the next mass shooting comes about. And I was sitting on the edge of my couch, like everyone else, yesterday evening in Michigan, watching for local news updates, updating social media by the minute to check in. I had family, friends, and staff on campus, colleagues of mine also were sharing that sentiment in group texts. And so I was at a point of frustration. I felt a deja vu as we've gone through this a few times before. And again, just leading as a father, someone who watched those horrific events play out and the anxiety that we all felt for hours, not knowing how this was going to end, just put me in a place where I was, vulnerable and put down on paper how exactly I felt instead of using one of those pre-written statements.
Well, and what you put, I obviously we obviously can't say on the air, but I mean, it really, honestly, it really drives the point home, for this real need for change. We need to go beyond these statements and different things. So, in your view, what can be done uh, to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, it's just that, kind of going back to that. We've heard those statements before, those empty promises of thoughts and prayers and meaningless action. And there's only so many times you can read those sorrowful messages over and over again and really feel any sense of hope that something is going to change. And just to be clear, my statement obviously offended some, and I think the inflammatory language struck a chord. But it was left, and when read alone, it can be taken out of context, and especially in today's divisive political climate. But it's important to know that my statement was in context of much bigger idea that we need to do more. I am actually a man of faith. I'm a man of prayer. My heart is full of thoughts and prayers for the Michigan State community, for victims suffering from this. But the sentiment that I was trying to convey is that we need to do more on top of the thoughts and prayers we're issuing, because we cannot continue to go decades with dozens and dozens of these shootings thinking that thoughts and prayers are alone are doing anything. And so I'm calling on people in position of power to ask for that change and to fight for a safer Michigan.
Well, and a lot of it too, and I've heard a lot of this today in terms of a need for the expansion for mental health services, and not only for people, that might be troubled or carry out these acts, but for the people that go through this, these students that have went through this. And so I feel like that's a whole nother avenue of it too, you know. And like you had mentioned in your um, statement today, that the U.S. is the only country that this seems to happen in, these acts of
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah, and it can't be like that going forward. And obviously things are not so binary. These events do happen in other countries, but they do not happen at the rate that they happen in the United States anywhere across the world. It is a list that we are far out a number one on, and it's a list that we should not be number one on. And so, for those of us in elected office, it's our responsibility to pursue changes in the laws that will like help reduce the instances of senseless gun violence in Michigan and our country. And so there's a whole host of ideas that are on the table. And so you brought up the aspects of mental health, and I think that's a part of it. I think, unfortunately, these conversations around common sense gun reform, anytime there's a shooting, become deeply political and politicized, where productive conversation sometimes, where there's no oxygen left for productive conversation. And so, it's my goal to use this platform and the statement I made to hopefully use that as a conduit to have some productivity and some meaningful conversation on what needs to happen, because I think there's a whole host of things that we should be doing.
And do you have a message for the Michigan State community?
Absolutely. I think that we need to lean in on understanding and the message of hope. We are all Spartans today. We're all Michiganders today. We are committed in Lansing to fighting for a better Michigan after decades of inaction on common sense gun reform. I'm encouraged that my colleagues in House leadership, in the other chamber in the Senate, and from taking our cues from the governor's State of the State address a couple of weeks ago, where she laid out a roadmap for her plan on common sense gun reform. I know that we will be working on bills and packages such as universal background checks, safe storage laws, and extreme risk protection orders. All three of these bills and packages have been passed in many states around the country. They're battle tested. They've held up to litigation. They've proven to be effective, most importantly. And so we are canvassing stakeholders and ready to introduce quality, effective, equitable legislation that will help curb gun violence in all corners of our state.
Is there anything else you would like to add before I let you go today?
I appreciate your time. I do want to just again emphasize that I am a person of faith. I'm a man of prayer. I have small children, and so my goal here is to use my platform to help further this dialogue in a productive manner in which we will be making Michigan safer for our communities and future generations.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
you're welcome. And you can always feel free to reach out. And I'm the assignment editor here. So you guys have my contact info. So, all right.
What do we got for timing? Is this going up online or?
I know it's going to be likely in the 11 o'clock
Okay, cool.
newscast. So probably after that. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
Very good.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.